Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sheldon Ferguson, Policy Lead in the local digital team in the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. And welcome to this afternoon's presentation or show and tell on Open Referral UK. Next slide, please. So it's not just me here that done all this work. There's lots of other talented people as well. And it's a mixture of civil servants and colleagues from TPX Impact. So I've got myself, got Keith McDonald as product manager, senior consultant Stuart McKenzie. Melanie, as you can see on the screen here, is our delivery manager. Rimmel is also here, who's our impact consultant. We have Mehin Dodger is also on the call, service designer. Mike, who is our subject matter expert. Jeff Comsty, our software engineer. Mel Allen, who is our content designer. And also part of the team is Dave Evans, who's our interaction designer. Next slide, please. And just to take you through the agenda, remind people about what we've done so far with OI UK. Apologies to those who've already heard it before, but we may have some new people here. Look at the stage of adoption we're in, what we've learned from users, what we're doing now, next steps, and keeping in touch. Okay, so we're just going to take you through the story so far and what OI UK is and what we want to achieve. So Open Referral UK is a government-endorsed open standard. What we mean is it's been endorsed by the Data Standards Authority. It is an implementation of human services data specification that provides a consistent way of recording and sharing information about services. This could be information about very specific services, targeted at adults or children with specific complex needs, through to more generalized volunteer or charity-run services that meet social needs of a community. This stemmed from some work a long time ago originally, where we look at the local digital fund and some of the lessons that came out from COVID about how to match people in need with volunteers. And this is what we funded through the local digital fund, and it's what's continues to be adopted across the UK. So the problems that data standard could help solve, not only do local authorities and other local partners currently maintain duplicate data about these services, we also held in multiple data products. Managing data across these multiple products is really inefficient and could often lead to inaccurate data, and this means fragmented user journeys, especially for citizens, but also for practitioners as well who have to work with this, especially when they're relying on this information. There is often no single clear routes for the owner of a service to have it listed or even updated. Consistent high-quality data could help people make better choices and access the right support at the right time and place. So how can the standard help? The standard promotes the use of predefined data structures, data types, interoperable open APIs. These are designed to support a future ecosystem of products where data can be managed just once, but also be shared and reused multiple times across products and, crucially, organizational boundaries. Adoption could not only improve the efficiency of data management and data quality, but also unlock the data potential for data to be aggregated between local and national data sets, and potentially power new services and initiatives such as social prescribing. So earlier this year, March 2025, we launched our new website, which produces a suite of things in there. We've got a how-to guidance for councils and council officers, looking at how to adopt OI UK standards. We've also got an executive summary for senior leaders, making a case for why it should be adopted. But also we've got some whizzy stuff as well, which including a business case calculator to say what's the cost of investment roughly and what savings could potentially be made from this. And this could help, guys making the case to decision makers and say to adopt this. And also we have a validator tool that can check the URL of a data feed for OI UK compliance and say, is this data working and is it got a constant feed? And I think that's me now. I'm going to be handing over to Mike Thacker, who's our subject matter expert, and is going to advise on the stage of adoption we're in.
Thanks, Sheldon. If we can move on to the next slide, Melanie, you'll see this is the standard innovation adoption curve and where we think we are on it. So relatively early in the journey, we recognize that it's a long-term investing in the product, and some people wait to see it implemented by others before they go ahead. So we're at that stage of the journey, but as we've just seen from Sheldon's presentation, MHCLG remains committed, and we see this as a long-term thing, and we're putting our resources into supporting the standard as adoption increases until such time as it reaches tipping point, and it's no questions asked. It's the obvious thing to do. If we move on to the next slide, you'll see that current adopters are 7 live council feeds plus 1 feeds of sport and wellbeing services. That comes from London Sport and therefore has a concentration on London sports services, but does cover a variety of sports services nationally. We have their Care Quality Commission data transformed to the Open Referral UK format. 1 ICB implementing the standard, which was put on hold, and we'll come on to talk briefly about NHS adoption of the standard in a moment, and 3 suppliers whose products are compliant with the Open Referral UK standard, such that if you buy their product out of the box, you get standard compliance. Upgrading to version 3, which isn't as scary as some people feared, has been done by PlaceCube, whose Open Place directory product supports both version 1 and version 3. And I see we have Dale on the call from Shropshire, and Shropshire recently adopted that product and thereby have an Open Referral UK compliant feed. And London Sport have upgraded to version 3. Local Gov Drupal has products for both publishing a feed of services compliant with Open Referral UK and a module which consumes an Open Referral feed, whether it comes from themselves or elsewhere. And it's that consumption model that they're using in Greenwich. So we looked at why others aren't implementing and where they are on the adoption stage and any barriers they might encounter. And Rimal's going to give us an introduction to the survey we did to analyse where people are and what problems they're facing.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, so over the last couple of months, we spent some time talking to users who, in our case, I'd also like to call them potential adopters. We engaged with them through a range of activities, primarily to get an understanding from their point of view around aspects such as what do they see Open Referral helping with, the key benefits that they perceive that can be realized from wider adoption of the standard, but also for those who have already commenced their adoption journey, what sort of challenges do they continue to face? What sort of challenges do they anticipate facing in the future? What are the key blockers, for instance? And what are the breadth of lessons that they have learned so far from their adoption journey? So when I say user engagement or user research, there are primarily 2 things that we conducted over the last 2 to 3 months. The first one was, and some of you might have responded to this, some of you might have received the sort of request for responding to it, but we sent out a survey to over 160 potential adopters or users through the Open Referral UK mailing list. And these included a breadth of potential adopters, including suppliers, local authorities, integrated care boards, as well as organizations from the non-profit sector. The key aim of the survey was, as I said earlier, to gather feedback on how the adoption journey is being felt across all stakeholders. What's the perception around the standard, the challenges, and the experience so far. So we received about 12 responses to the survey, and through the survey we gathered data and synthesized some insights around adoption status, most significant barriers, benefits, as well as key learnings from the adoption journey. We also asked survey respondents to help us to provide us with any open-ended suggestions on comments on how we can make the adoption journey easier for them. But following this survey, we also offered holding one-to-one discussions with survey respondents. So we spoke to 4 organizations, a couple of them being local authorities, one of them being a supplier. And the one-to-one discussions really helped us uncover some of the data and the insights that we gathered from the survey itself. but it gave us a good idea of what sort of real world challenges are organizations actually facing. Next slide, please. So just to give a small flavor of the sort of data or the insights that we gathered through the survey, we asked stakeholders the top challenges that they continue to face in their adoption journey. A little bit surprisingly, budget constraints to sustain long-term compliance came up on the top. Organizations continue to struggle to sort of manage budgets or funding for long-term compliance with the standard, with concerns around any updates in the standard over longer term, further sort of exacerbating that concern. People are concerned that if there are any updates done to the standard over the longer term, it may not be it may become a sustainability issue. For instance, if they have to deploy dedicated resources to stay on top of the standard to ensure compliance over the longer term. And then similarly, competing priorities came up at the top. Unsurprisingly, IT teams and data teams across councils continue to be stretched as they juggle multiple priorities, often prioritizing more front and citizen-facing projects over something that might go in the back end. Concerns over data sharing and compliance with legal requirements also came up quite high in terms of the challenges faced, followed by other challenges such as limited skills and capacity, driving change management and culture for adopting anything that's new across local authorities. We uncovered a lot of these challenges in our one-to-one discussions as well, which Mike will take us through later in much more detail. But those are the sort of top headline figures from the survey itself. Next slide, please. Thank you. But on the positive side, we also wanted to understand if and what benefits do potential adopters see arising from further adoption of the standard, and improved data sharing within and across organizations came up at the top, with a resounding 9 out of 12 respondents voting it as the most significant benefit, followed by reduced inefficiencies of managing multiple directories, which speaks to the point of there being duplication of data as well as directories across organizations, across systems. So yes, improved efficiencies and reduced inefficiencies, both when it comes to duplication, but also with regards to data management or feed maintenance, as well as increased data sharing came up as the top benefits. With that, I will pass it on to Mike to take us into much more detail around the barriers.
Thanks, Rimal. So Rimal's shown us the headline figures and mentioned that we did those detailed interviews. We also had qualitative text responses from the survey. And that's as we've used to guide our work and to identify what people see as the barriers to adoption, which we've broken down under those 5 headings. Now, I'll go quickly through each heading and touch on what we've done or what we plan to do with that. And then I'll hand over to colleagues to give far more detail and examples of live pages and other content that we're producing to address specific barriers in some of these areas. So if we can move on to the next one, please, Melanie. So the first one is website guidance. We were asked for more simplified guidance. Well, we thought it was quite simple, but that's the trouble when you're kind of intimate with something, you don't realize it's hard to get started. So we've published a quick step guide, which shows, I think, 7 steps you can go through with links to more detailed guidance on each of those steps. The concern about data sharing and compliance with legal legislation on sharing, I mean, basically the answer is if it's already in a public directory, it should be shared in a machine readable format. But there are subtleties about what data you can and can't exclude, and we've published a page describing that. On guidance on using feeds from others, we understand that there's a lot more to be done there. but we have in the pipeline a case study which will look at taking feeds and work to share data between neighbouring councils and between national and local organisations. So that's website guidance. The next one, communications, talking about the standard. One supplier that's implemented the standard said, well, we've done everything we said, and then it went quiet. Well, it's really only gone quiet because we've been beavering away in the background and we've not really told people about it. So this show and tell is partly to address that, but we will keep the communications coming out from MHCLG, from our mailing list and from the forum. Just even if we're just repeating messages that some of you may have heard before, but new people may not. People need a way of keeping in touch with the team. Well, we do encourage combined learning with the forum and do post there or just lurk there and see what other people are saying. But you can email hello@Open Referral UK, and people have done that, for instance, to get guidance from Jeff on how they comply with the standard and hence pass the validator. And one quite insightful comment we got was that it's quite hard to articulate what the standard is, because people tend to think in terms of products rather than standards. And this person drew the analogy of accessibility, which is very much a standard rather than a product. But by having it articulated and people overseeing it, they are urged to comply with accessibility standards. But specifically to show what you can do with the Open Referral Standard, we've published a set of use cases which should help communicate, perhaps to less technical colleagues, what can be achieved once you've implemented the standard. And the next slide, please, is on organizational points. It was commented that Open Referral UK is an interchange standard. We don't care how you store your data, it's how you communicate it in a way that other people will understand it without having to understand new terminology every time. But to do that, you need someone to interchange with. And we're very conscious that current implementers are distributed around the country and we have few national feeds. So we are concentrating our efforts on helping adjoining councils, maybe people in a combined authority area, publish and communicate with one another, and putting some impetus into getting more national feeds of data, such that data can be taken from one national source and fed into each relevant local directory. Somebody said it's rarely mentioned in tenders. I think that's changing slightly, and that there's a need for pump priming to get people moving. Sheldon at MHCLG is working on those two. Watch this space. And the next slide, technical. I was somewhat surprised, in fact many of us were surprised, that people said the long-term cost of implementing the standard was a deterrent, because we believe, and indeed our business case shows, that once you've implemented it, you should be making savings in the long term, like not duplicated effort of entering the same data in multiple directories and taking feeds of reliable data from other people. But when we delved into that a bit more, it was more a question of how do we keep up to date with version changes, but particularly because I think people were a bit scared between the change to version 1 and version 3 for complicated reasons. There was no version 2 in the UK. Version 3 was not fully backwards compatible with version 1, hence the number change. That mainly is because we changed field names for international consistency, and we introduced some learning from working with our international colleagues. We do not expect another change of that nature for some time, and other changes will be incremental backwards compatible changes, all performed according to a transparent, well-documented, open process. And we've published a page on that to kind of reassure you that you're not shooting for a moving target. Advice on using Ofsted fields has come up, and we will be talking with implementers as to which fields from Ofsted data should go where in the standard. We're also hoping to speak to Ofsted, well, we will be speaking to Ofsted, but our intention, our hope is that we ultimately get a feed from Ofsted data, or at least that part which is public, compliant with the Open Referral UK standard. But that's a long process we have to go through. There was also talk of lack of tools to syndicate. So if you're wanting to bring together just some records from one feed into your own database, but not all of them, there aren't off-the-shelf tools to do that at the moment, certainly not with the open non-proprietary standard. There are suppliers such as Placecube and LocalGov Drupal who will take a post of the data. That means you can send data in the open referral format to their databases, and they will receive it and supplement their own databases with that data. But there's not a full-blown syndication, accept, reject records process in place. And we are aware that we need that, and speaking with LocalGov Drupal as to whether or not there's a possibility of collaboratively developing that. And finally, on the cross-government side, we do understand that the biggest savings to be made from open referral are not just by reusing data within local government, but sharing data across government, making it available, for instance, to the NHS for social prescribing, and taking feeds from other people, such as Ofsted and the NHS, into council directories. So we have later this, in early October, next month, starting tomorrow, a combined meeting of the LGA and NHS standards people making the case for better implementation of Open Referral UK within the NHS. So again, that's not a quick thing, but we're expecting to push that through, particularly with 2 new NHS people joining our cross-government steering board. As I've mentioned, we're speaking with Ofsted, and we'd like ultimately to have a feed from them compliant with Open Referral UK. And we are aware that there are not many feeds from adjacent councils and national feeds of services available at the moment. So we're looking particularly at helping get more national feeds that people can use and helping adjacent councils cooperate. In addition to those government bodies, we've been speaking with a variety of other people, and Stuart will tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, on the next slide, please. So most of the things that Mike's just relayed have come, like I said, off the back of the research activities and what we are starting to do with the things that we've learned. There's been some additional conversations alongside those, though, that we just wanted to mention. So we've been talking to the devolved administrations. So we've managed to meet with people from both Scottish and Welsh government to explore how interested they are in using the standard. And we've actually invited both of them to our cross-government steering group, which meets quarterly. So that's really good news, and hoping to delve into that and make some new connections of people to collaborate with over coming months. We've already mentioned them a couple of times, but our friends from LocalGov Drupal, and I know Will's on the call and maybe a few others today, we've been talking to them. Obviously, there are quite a lot of councils already signed up and using LocalGov Drupal, and given there's the kind of seed and some existing tooling within that platform that councils could use, we're just exploring new ways to collaborate together and think about how we might incentivize and encourage users of LocalGov Drupal to explore getting compliant feeds and serving them up via Drupal. And we're also, there's some other work going on within MHCLG at the moment to publish a local government reorganisation playbook. And obviously through devolution, when councils start to combine and come together, that is an opportunity for reevaluating products and platforms. And again, it's kind of this sweet spot of exploring where geographical boundaries change. So that for us is a really interesting opportunity to explore open referral and see if we can get some people sort of on the hook and involved in adopting as part of that journey, and hopefully give us some really solid case studies that we can share with other people that might be interested in adoption. So there's a few of the other additional conversations that have been going on alongside the research activity to date. I'll now pass you to Jeff, who's going to give you an idea of some of the more technical stuff we've been doing on the website and the validator over the last couple of months.
Hi, I'm Jeff. I'm the software engineer on the project. I've been working on the website and the validation API. We've made quite a few changes to the website to enhance security, protect against inbound attacks, to improve performance, and make it easier for people to use and adopt. We've also worked with a few failing V1 feeds to improve the reporting of why those feeds were failing, so that we can, and we've managed to get several feeds passing, and we've also got new version 3 feeds on valid on the site. We've also added new content to the website. I've refactored a lot of the source code to improve the performance and efficiency and readability of the code for support going forward. On the validation engine and the API, I've improved the performance of some of the validation logic, done some refactorings, and supporting concurrent processing of the validation jobs through asynchronous tasks. I have a view to further refactor this to fully support something like a microservice architecture for maintainability, security, and scalability, sorry, both horizontally and vertically. We're working to enable the service to easily support changing versions, such as version 3.1.1, and then make it easier for adoption of versions going forward. Some of my planned refactorings for the API are largely bore out of a collaboration with the international community and the Committee on Open Data Standards. I've been attending some of their meetings and learning what their requirements are and how we can adapt the OR UK validation engine to be more flexible, such that it can be adopted through a wider audience. And this is hopefully going to culminate in relocating some of the logic that isn't needed for that community from the validation API over to the website, such as the database access, so that the validation engine can focus on the sole task of validating a data feed against an open data schema. Ultimately, what I'd like to do is the validator to be able to accept a version profile, and this might be a bit technical, but an open API specification, so that you can pass both in, and it can validate that specification for the feed against what it should be providing on the profile, and then validate all of the endpoints on the feed against the profile versions, which will just let the whole thing be fully automated. And lastly, which has been requested, which came out of one of the committees on open data standard requests, is and it's in the pipeline in development at the moment, is the flexibility for supporting authentication on these endpoints. So there's a lot of things in the pipeline to improve and to make this easily adoptable by a wider community. That's it for me.
Next slide. Hi, I'm Meha. I'm the service designer on the project. So the prototyping and developing use case catalog. So essentially there was a need for less technical information, which led to this prototype. And this is specifically created for non-technical users. And it's to help them understand practical ways Open Referral UK could apply to their organizations. So we've designed the catalog so it's useful for users at different stages of the project journey. So in the early stages as a reason to adopt the standard, and particularly to help with senior leaders and decision makers understand the benefits, and at a mid-project range point as a reference guide or checklist for new projects. Next slide, please. So we've developed these 6 use cases to explain to less technical people the potential of using OR UK. And each one describes the benefits, outcomes, and points to examples that demonstrate this use case in action. And these are all backed up by guidance on making a case within councils and how to implement the standard. And the idea is that savings in councils come from better service information and reduced duplication of effort maintaining that data. But bigger improvements can come from sharing across government. So I'm now going to pass over to Mel, who's going to run you through the website.
Ooh, yeah, so we can take a quick look at the new use case catalogue that we've published. So yeah, these can be used kind of as inspiration to help build a business case, and particularly to help articulate to senior leaders and decision makers how OR UK can be used. We've tried to make them accessible to people who aren't necessarily familiar with the standard, with scenarios that give a bit more context and show how they can be used to benefit you. So if you want to go on to one of the use cases, each use case has a description, a list of benefits and key outcomes. And we've also provided examples for each use case where you can see how this has been used by other organisations. We know examples are really important to people. You might also notice at the top there's a banner asking for some feedback. So if after this you do take a look at them, let us know what you think. But yeah, so there are use cases. Alongside the use cases, we tested a simple step-by-step guide, which Mike referred to earlier. Ooh.
The bottom banner.
Cool. I think we can go back to the slides. But yes, we had a new simple step-by-step guide. We knew from the survey that users wanted a simple, quick guide of how to adopt OR UK that could be used to that could be understood by non-tech roles too. That points to key documents that can help with getting started for adoption. And this had positive feedback about being clear and easy to understand. So it's hopefully a useful overview of the adoption process. We've also created some other guidance to address feedback from the survey. We've published 2 new guidance pages. One's about understanding how the OR UK standard is governed and how new versions are released. It explains the core standard, what a profile is, and when a new version of the UK profile will be produced, with kind of reassurance that it often has backwards compatibility. We've also shared guidance on data sharing and privacy, and this lists the kind of data you should exclude from your open OR UK data feeds, and emphasises that the rest can safely be open in the same way as content on existing web page directories is open. The other thing that we're doing is finalising a new case study on Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council's work with NHS Dorset and Community Action Network. They solved a problem for frontline professionals who lacked reliable, up-to-date information on community services, especially for mental health support. In a really collaborative partnership, they created a new service finder tool, and this used a shared data set of local community services that was restructured to fit the OR UK standard. They co-designed the tool with frontline workers, giving them a trusted and flexible way to find services. And now over 650 professionals are using the tool, which is really nice to see. I think we're going back to Sheldon.
Yeah, so maybe about what's next. So obviously we've been quite busy lately, but there's a lot of things to go forward as well. As Mike alluded to, we're exploring some targeted outreach to councils. I'm hoping to put up some advice and recommendations in the near future, but I can't say any more at this stage because this is subject to ministerial approval, and these things can be subject to change as well. So I think that's as far as I can say at the moment. On your thing Mike alluded to as well earlier, we're actively exploring how central government departments and national service owners can publish and also syndicate their national data sets using the OR UK standard. This isn't just a technical ambition, it's also about unlocking the real value of local governments and frontline users. I mean, if we can imagine a local authority being able to combine its own community service data with national data sets from either NHS or Ofsted, this would give professionals a fuller picture of available support, improve referrals, and ultimately to better outcomes for residents. We are actively speaking with colleagues across departments, as Stuart mentioned earlier, and we want to make this vision a reality. And we see this as a key enabler for scaling OR UK adoption and impact. In addition to that, as Jeff's been showing you, we're continuing with the ongoing support and maintenance of the website and the standard itself. And we are starting to think long-term succession planning as well about support and handover to a partner with MHCLG to make sure OR UK can be on a sustainable footing as well. And I think that brings us to the end. But yeah, if you want to know more, please keep in touch. We're happy to give you support as well if you want to unthread this and implement OR UK yourselves. So please join the forum, join the mailing list, or say hello to us. And also, we'd love some feedback on the use cases, pages, and content.
Thanks, Sheldon. Yeah, so we've kind of thrown a lot of information at all of you. We've done a lot of work over the last few months, and we're really pleased to be able to talk about it more, demo it, and show just everything that the team's been doing. Are there any questions or comments on anything you've seen? Please feel free to either come off mute or put something in the chat. happy to discuss further.
I think we've amazed them into silence.
I'll be brave then. Somebody asked a question about local gov Drupal, so thank you for that. So I'm Will from local gov Drupal, I'm product lead. So we're really interested in doing more with this, and the implementation was done a while ago. But, Mike reminded us we're a bit out of date, so we're going to rectify that shortly. But we are looking for councils who want to do some serious work on this. There's 60 councils in our community. So it's just trying to find the right combo of councils who've got time and interest. And I'm sort of hard at work on that. I've got some promising leads that I'm following up. So we will keep you posted. And if anyone outside wants to talk about it, then please do. Just drop us a line. My email's in the chat. So it's nice to see you all. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks, Will. Jonathan, you've come on camera.
Yeah. I believe that you mentioned funding or something, or support and that kind of thing. So, I mean, we work. If you know local gov Drupal, it's a consortium of lots of councils and companies that support those councils doing the techie stuff. And we're one of the smallest companies that's doing that. We're basically only doing stuff around the send local offer, but we're moving into directories of resources for send, and we've got a new tender out there for doing a new local offer where they've got everything all in one website, and they want to split it up into the local offer and families. So I'm just wondering how we might be able to tap into some funding, or do I just talk to Will and we go through that route, or where that all sits?
So with the UK adoption, we are just exploring this at the moment, and we've got advice, but I can't say any more because it is subject to ministerial approval.
Right.
And they may just say change the direction of our approach and direct us to do something which they may be of interest to them. It's just the way it is, basically, and just life as a civil servant. Prepare advice, and then they decide. So I can't really say much more than that. But yeah, local gov Drupal, that's a different funding model itself, which I understand is through subscriptions. I'm not too sure what opportunities are there for you, but maybe Will can come back.
We've got Johnny. Let's catch up afterwards, because
okay.
I know we've been talking about this, but we've not talked about it recently. So let's definitely do that. There is something in the Drupal, the local Drupal world, called the community fund. So if councils want to get together and fund something that the roadmap won't pay for or won't be covered on the roadmap, then we can kind of almost like kickstart a crowdfund, sort of take that kind of approach. And it's worked really well in some cases. So there's a big, it's not related to this, but it's a council's put 25 grand into a PDF importer, sort of using AI, for example. That's like the highest profile one we've had so far. So I think there's opportunities there. But Johnny, let's catch up offline.
Yeah. Perhaps I could just add that, the local gov Drupal model for essentially everyone doing the same thing and everybody chipping into tooling is a nice model, and probably one that is appropriate for more tooling, such as syndication tooling for open referral, as more and more people are using the same standard. So they're spending the money once along with other councils for a combined effort. And as Jeff mentioned, we are doing some work internationally with people with similar goals. The model that you've described, Jonathan, which is using one source of data for multiple front-end directories, I think that's our use case number one. And we do see that in a number of places already, What we see less of is using data shared across regional boundaries, and they've been the use cases that we've been looking for, in particular to show sharing between national and local organisations and between, for instance, neighbouring councils. And it would be great to see a few more examples of that, which indeed Drupal might make possible with implementations for neighbouring councils.
I mean, that's certainly my view, my vision for the send local offer. You know, there's a number of national charities that every local offer has put onto their website individually. You know, a number that you know that should be hundreds, and it's not, because people get tired. And you know that data should just be sucked in.
Exactly. I mean, do let us know such charities, because if there is a significant charity providing a feed which is providing data which is consumed by multiple councils, maybe we can speak to them with a view to them providing one open referral feed for consumption. So do let us know.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just the sort of the contact details that we're wanting to put on the local offers, but it's the same 200, 300 charities all working with disabled kids that need to be on every local offer. So it's, you know, 150 local offers, everybody's typing in. That's the model. It's not that there's a charity that wants to feed a lot of information across. Will, go
on. I'm slightly aware this is becoming the local gov Drupal
show
at the end, so apologies. Just I think something you said, Mike, was that we're looking for councils and organisations across, like in regions, across regional boundaries. So we're really interested in talking to other suppliers. So if you're a supplier on the call and you don't use Drupal, that's all. I think that's also fine. Like if you have a neighbouring council that does use it, like that actually proves the standard. Like I don't just want this to be for councils all using Drupal, because that doesn't really, it's fine, but it doesn't actually push it as far as we can all push it. So like if you're another supplier and you've got a Drupal council on your doorstep, drop me a line, because we might be able to, like between us, have a chat and get a council, a health trust, a couple of councils together and like actually do something really good. So yeah, give me a shout. If you want to know where our councils are, there's a map on the website, but I can drop you a link in the chat if anyone's interested in that.
Thanks, Will. Any other questions? I think we'll call it at that then.